I always feel though, like with this sort of like subject of death and conspiracy theories, there is a lot of space for a lot of nonsense. Like, for example, Elvis still being alive. Like, for example, I've got this in front of me, and please stop me if you think I've crossed the line here. But there's a conspiracy here that the Holocaust never happened, right?
Well, let's just stop.
I mean, going back to conspiracy theories that piss me off, right?
I feel like we've really touched the nerve here.
5G causes COVID.
Oh, for God's sake.
You want another one to wind you up? Another popular...
The COVID one has actually pissed me off a bit, I can't lie, but go on.
No, this one has affected me the most. This one affected me the most. The Earth is flat.
No, right, end of the podcast. That's it. No. It's not flat.
Maps. Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
And good night.
This is Chat All About It. And today, Samuel, what are we chatting about?
Well, we've had a conversation about this, and I believe we're talking about conspiracies, which is something I'm very interested in.
It is a complete sort of one-off pod, let's say. It's just exploring what possibly may have been, but not put at the forefront of our media. I don't know.
Yeah.
Samuel, I would actually like to say I've had my wine gum. I'm ready.
Wait. Which flavour?
Well, obviously I went for the green.
Sorry,
obviously.
I didn't know there was. We haven't got to 1,000 subs yet. Which, if you haven't subbed, what are you doing? Press that button because we're going to get the 1,000 subscriber special of Jack's top 5 wine gum flavours.
It's too exciting. Stop. It's too much. It's too much.
Dear, I'm sorry.
Right. So I've actually heard about this conspiracy so much, and I'm actually interested to get your opinion on it.
Go on.
Princess Diana's death.
Okay, it's actually not one that I've looked into too much.
Okay.
I've heard little bits and pieces, but I've got a celebrity death possibly in mind. So you go with yours, and I'll go with mine.
Okay, so Princess Diana, obviously she was a huge sort of standout character from the royal family. She sort of openly said in interviews that she's not accepted in the family, and they've basically just rejected her. I actually felt that Princess Diana was a really nice person. I felt like she was extremely charitable, and she spent a lot of her time making sure that she could do that, to be charitable, to help small communities or poor communities in other countries. And I thought it was very admirable. Obviously, quite close to her death, it started sort of coming out in the news that she was actually now seeing someone else.
Yeah. And
obviously, it is bad press. Do you think that the royal family had anything to do with her death?
Well, this is what I was going to say to you. I didn't know you were going to go down this route straight away. I was going to say there's rumours or conspiracies that perhaps the royal family are the reason that she's no longer here. I think that is... If that was the case, then... not that anyone can kind of do anything to the royal family, but if that information got out, that for whatever reason, they've had enough of Diana, they'll arrange the car crash, do whatever, there's got, something's got to happen. Like, there'll be riots. Surely, like, if that information got out.
I mean... Even if there is no sort of planned murder, I feel like it's such a strange event to happen, isn't it? That the driver of Princess Diana is drunk, and he's
like you would. It's the sort of thing. It's the sort of thing that you would. Obviously, I would not recommend drunk driving. However, if you're, basically in control of where Princess Diana is going to, you're not going to think, I have a few bevs, I'll be alright.
Well, you would have been a character, I'm sure, that would have went through many checks. You would have done that job for years. You would have been, an extremely in even that industry, you would have been quite a big character, you know, to be driving around people like that. You can't just be any sort of driver. I would have thought there
Yeah.
would have been, as I said, several checks. So it does seem crazy to think that the guy was drunk. He was speeding down, and what I find also quite weird is that it was in quite an enclosed area of being in a
Yeah.
tunnel. What do you think about that, mate?
I think that again, I just want to clarify that the information we're saying in this video podcast, however you're listening or watching this, these aren't our opinions. They're just a conspiracy theory that we're just evaluating. I think that if you were going to arrange for this sort of accident to happen, I'll be honest, the tunnel's probably not a bad. It's not a bad choice, like because think about it, it's going to be dark. You do what you got to do, and then you can get out. No.
I think there's always things though that make you think, you know, but there's no sort of real explanation. The explanation is really brief, like really sort of vague, and it's never sort of really come down to exactly what happened, you know, and that's why I guess conspiracy theories are made, because people have to, you know, like I'm going to briefly touch on this, but like with Madeleine McCann, like people
God.
make so many conspiracy theories about what happened because we still today have no answer of what's actually happened. So it's very interesting to sort of see what possibly could have happened.
So what are your thoughts on that topic? Do you have any theories, or have you heard anything with regards to that?
The thing is, I mean, with Diana, we sort of know what happened. You know, we know exactly what happened with the event. We just don't know if it was planned or not. That's what we're saying. But with Madeleine, we just do not have a clue what's happened. There's no proof that she's dead. There's no proof that she's alive. And there's just no proof, Sam. There's nothing. There's literally nothing.
It's crazy.
It is sort of why I think it's got the amount of attention it's got is because of that reason there. There's been no clues that was left. There's no witnesses. There's nothing. There's been millions and millions of pounds spent on that investigation, and I've seen several programs where they've sort of had a theory of what happened. But it's one of them things where, are we ever going to find out about Madeleine?
It's crazy. Like when you said you've watched loads of programs, did you see the one on Netflix?
I did, yeah. It was it just called Madeleine, or I don't know.
I don't know what it was called, but it was. I'll be honest, it was about 5 episodes too long. To be perfectly honest, because they did all the interrogations and things like that. Obviously we weren't. I know we're gonna just briefly go into detail on these topics. The conspiracy that I've heard, more so than anything, is that one of the parents is aware of what's happened, and the other one has had to kind of, because they love their partner, has kind of had to cover it up. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I mean, Sam, you know, there's 500 different stories about the Madeleine. I think we should swiftly move on, reload the gun conversation.
Yeah, all right.
And shoot off the next bullet.
I've got the next bullet is named Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley, is he dead? What's your thoughts? Straight up, what is your thoughts?
I think, we just finished an episode with Maradona, and unfortunately, we both felt it was necessary to touch on his lifestyle and talk about how he sort of lived his life. And unfortunately, I think Elvis, I don't know if you've seen the videos of his last ever concerts, and he's just blown up. He's huge. He doesn't even look like the shadow of his former self. And it looked like, just from watching him, it looked like he went down a very sad, miserable existence. Maybe he put a lot of pressure on himself, or a lot of pressure was put on him. And it just looked like he basically killed himself with that lifestyle, with just going 150% every single minute of the day. And that's what it looked like. So I do believe that he, from his lifestyle, unfortunately passed early.
Okay. I'm not here to say...
Rest in peace, the king.
Exactly. I'm not here to say, well, Jack, you're completely wrong. That's not what this is all about. I've got some information here, which is from like some conspiracy theorists, right? And I'm gonna get another bullet of conversation with regards to Elvis, and just I want to hear your thoughts on this. So, Elvis, as you said, didn't have the healthiest lifestyle. He supposedly died whilst on the toilet, eating a hamburger or a cheeseburger or something. He did drugs, drank a lot. I mean, he's living in Vegas. He is the poster boy of music, basically, of the world. So some conspiracy theorists have said at Elvis's funeral, on the tombstone, his name's spelt wrong. Is that intentional, or is it not Elvis? You know, it's so his middle name is spelt incorrectly.
I just think that is just a massive stupid mistake. If that is actually the case,
Because
that
you
is
would have thought,
absolutely ridiculous.
well, no, but you would have thought, like, anyone who unfortunately passes, I think the main thing you want to do is when they're buried, you want to make sure that you've got the correct name on on their headstone. You know, it's
Yeah.
kind of an important piece of information.
I always feel though, like with this sort of like subject of death and conspiracy theories, there is a lot of space for a lot of nonsense. Like, for example,
yeah.
Elvis still being alive. Like, for example, I've got this in front of me, and please stop me if you think I've crossed a line here.
Go
But
on.
there's a conspiracy here that the Holocaust never happened, right?
Well,
I'm gonna-
okay, that is that. Let's just stop.
Can I read you this because it's actually hilarious, right?
wow.
Despite overwhelming evidence and an admission and apology from from Germany decades ago, revisionists continue to claim that nearly 6 million Jews were not killed by Nazis during the Holocaust. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad,
Love
for
the
one, has called the
pronunciation.
Holocaust a myth and suggests that Germany and other European countries, rather than Palestine, provide land for a Jewish state. So it's stuff like that where, with
Right.
conspiracy theories, you really need to sort of check yourself.
Okay, so the thing is, right, the Holocaust happened. Like, I'm so sorry, but it did. Like, just how can you be so naive and think, do you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to spread a rumor that this awful thing that happened didn't happen.
No,
like
it's a
so-
nonsense. So
like,
that's why
it-
we've got to be careful when we talk about conspiracy theories. So
Yeah, no, of course.
I've got another one here, which
Go
is
on.
actually extremely interesting because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people I know sort of believe it. The moon landings were fake.
That was going to be one of mine, so go for it. I'll let you.
It's
you
now
go for it.
it's now been nearly 4 decades since Neil Armstrong took his giant leap for mankind. If that is he ever set off this planet, doubters say the US government, desperate to beat the Russians in the space race, faked the lunar landings. Wow, with
on,
Armstrong
mate.
and
God.
Buzz Aldrin acting out their mission on a secret film set located, depending on the theory, either high in the Hollywood Hills or deep within Area 51, with the photos and videos of the Apollo missions only available through NASA. So why I think that the moon landings actually did happen, right, is that the Russians would have been able to prove it didn't happen. Surely with all the satellite that was in existence at that time, they would have said, well, the rocket never even went past the atmosphere, or the how could that be possible? Russia or another country, China, or whoever, would have been able to see that it clearly didn't go to the moon. That's
yeah.
my opinion on it anyway. Because if you were Russian or Chinese and you were in the space race, it would have meant a lot to you to make sure that they didn't do it. So you would have checked that. You would have said, "Well, no, they definitely didn't do that." But I can see how they could say yes, it was filmed in a studio, because really, in that year, in that time period, for you to even see video footage of someone on the moon, you just think, how is that possible? That is mental.
I mean, as I was gonna raise this topic, and I think again, I'm not saying it has happened. I'm in your court basically with it did happen. However, of all the things that we've mentioned so far, it is the one that could be most likely. If you get what I mean, like it could have been very easy to go into a studio and pretend, or one giant step for man, whatever, one giant leap for mankind, and all that. That could have all just been scripted. Like you just don't know. I mean, I think obviously it did happen because that, we've evolved so much from that, and that actually takes me on to another point. It was actually going to be a podcast we were going to do separately. Do you remember we were going to do a pod on that another rocket that was going? I don't know if it was going to the moon. I'm not sure where it was going. I think it was called Commander. Do you remember that?
No.
So okay, well basically what they did was they put adverts in the newspaper for people who are interested in aviation to go down, do all the testing to become an astronaut. And this was the first time that a female, an Asian male, and a black male had been, or a black person, Asian person had been involved in anything like this. It was always, it was back in the 1960s, so it was very like white heavy, I'd say, and they'd done loads of tests and it was absolutely fine. They had successful operations that went ahead beforehand with an all white male crew. And this just so happens to be the first rocket that failed and everybody died. The conspiracy is the reason why it failed is because America wanted to prove that only white men are able to go forward in the aviation industry.
Yes, sorry. Now, it does ring a bell. I did watch the first 2 episodes of that. It was actually really interesting to see sort of how that happened, because I feel like that's been so covered up. I never knew about all these people dying basically 20 seconds after takeoff, like the whole rocket just blowing up in the sky. Like there was a video footage which was really hard to watch actually, of basically the family of an astronaut. They're watching their son like fly in the sky, and basically they watched him die because the rocket just blew up, and it's just like, so heavy. Like, but there are a lot of conspiracy theories. I mean, for the most part, conspiracy theories piss me off. Like, they're a complete waste of time. A lot of them are, and they do annoy me. I am actually quite a factual person. I much prefer actually just hearing facts rather than going down the road of a conspiracy theory, to be honest with you. But there are some which do sort of interest me. For example, 9/11. Was it an inside job? How the hell did the military not shoot these planes down earlier? How the hell did how was it even allowed to happen? Like how could this have not been intercepted earlier? And how did the second building go down like the way it did? So there's so many hows with that, and that is why there is a strong conspiracy theory with 9/11. Have you looked into any 9/11 documentaries before, or like?
I think I watched one when I was a lot younger. Like, I haven't seen anything very recently. I'm sure by that question you probably have. So. I'll let you take this away and let me know what you've gained from these documentaries.
Well, again, I mean, look, it was a huge tragedy, and even a lot of people from the UK, I think we actually had some fear, because in a way, America is obviously, we are 2 different countries, but we are one in a way. I mean, is that cheesy? Like we are sort of one. If that, like we're Western, right? So we're Westernized, if that makes sense. We're all like,
but it's always very important for us to have good relationships with the US. So
in my head, we're basically sort of as one. When two become one. And
fucking singing has started again.
So it is interesting, because obviously there's a lot of financial gain from starting a war. From America's side, they get more access to oil by going to that part of the world to take over territory, and they had a very good excuse to do that. So it's very difficult. I'm not accusing America of doing it. I'm just saying that it is very odd that there were so many hows. How was that allowed to happen? How is there space for not one plane but 2 planes to go into the World Trade Center, and it did change the world a lot. I mean, it's an absolute nightmare, as it should be, really. I guess it's an absolute nightmare to go through an airport these days. And I mean, going back to conspiracy theories that piss me off, right?
I feel like we've really touched the nerve here.
5G causes COVID.
Oh, for God's sake. Oh, bloody hell. Go on.
Well, a lot of people, not a lot of people, but it's a minority group of people believe
idiots
that 5G waves causes COVID. And
right, explain to me how then. Go on.
Well, I would, for one, like to know their science because, I mean, we might as well believe that the boogeyman comes out at night.
I used to believe in him, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, you're probably one of them lot then. So,
wow.
So, just to be clear, 5G does not cause COVID. The virus does exist without 5G. Okay, so GG. Next subject. Samuel Reagan.
5G. Well played. What I was actually going to say, I was going to go back onto the topic of the celebrities or disappearances, right? So we mentioned, who did we say? Madeleine McCann, Diana, Elvis. There's probably a lot more high profile. Michael Jackson's even been thrown into the mix that, he... do you know the whole story of Michael Jackson?
I do, yeah.
The conspiracy?
I don't know the conspiracy behind his death.
So the conspiracy is that he was going to do the This Is It tour.
Yeah, I know that.
Believe it was 25 shows.
Yeah.
20 or 25 shows, something like that. Well, apparently, a week or 2 weeks before it was supposed to, kick off with all of the rehearsals, they've just said, Michael, we could do another 25. Bearing in mind, this is a 50-year-old man who hasn't performed in years. And, he did have, some medical conditions as well. And apparently he didn't want to do it. So the conspiracy is that Michael Jackson faked his death in order to not have to perform again. But my question to you, Mr. Jack Darby of the Chat All About It podcast, is... do you think that if anyone was a celebrity, was to fake their death, is it because they can't handle the pressure?
I do think there's a lot of pressure with a celebrity like that, like being that high level celebrity. You're constantly under scrutiny and a microscope, and if anyone was under the most scrutiny, it was obviously Michael Jackson. He was constantly accused of being a paedophile, and it's not. I mean, can you imagine, Sam, the whole world looking at you and going, "Yeah, he makes a good song, but he could be a pedo."
Yeah, but you say that all this, he could be, he isn't. All of this stuff, regardless of whether he was or whether he wasn't, because we now will never know. He still has loyal fans now, and had loyal fans throughout all of that. So, I'm not saying that the accusations are. They're true, they're not true. But I think his fans were so loyal, they were like, oh, actually, I don't care. Like, because he makes this unbelievable music, and he is Michael Jackson. So, I think, but that's what I'm saying. With the allegations that are against him, with his health and the extra shows, maybe he just thought, you know what? Fuck this, I want to have a rest. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I definitely think he is dead. I don't think you can hide a body. And I don't think, that I just don't think that's possible.
Well, personally. So you said you can't hide a body. Again, they had the ceremony like that. I don't know if it was at where was it? I'm trying to think of the state. It was at a stadium basically, and they got celebrities, his family, everyone, and he had this. I think this gold casket. He wasn't even in it. So I don't know. Like, obviously, I don't know. But at the time, nobody knew where his body was. Apparently, he was buried in Neverland. Don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, surely, if you're going to have a ceremony and they've got this casket, they're literally all just crying over a empty box.
No. I'm going to dismiss this theory now because we've been talking about it too long. Michael Jackson, unfortunately, has definitely passed away.
Okay.
And one more thing, Sam. Do you want another one to wind you up? Another popular.
The COVID one has actually pissed me off a bit. I can't lie, but go on.
No, this one has affected me the most. This one affected me the most. The Earth is flat.
No, right. End of the podcast. That's it. No. It's not flat.
Maps, measurements, satellite images, and photos of the Earth from space clearly show the world is a sphere. But the tinfoil hat brigade insists all such evidence is fabricated in a round Earth conspiracy, orchestrated by NASA and other government agencies. Members dedicate huge efforts to demonstrating the world is flat, compiling the proof in numerous websites and YouTube videos. So at the time when this was relevant, I actually looked on YouTube to watch one of these idiots talk about how the Earth is flat. And I'll tell you what, Sam, if you're ever feeling like upset, or you want a good laugh, or you just want to laugh at someone, this is a perfect video to watch.
I'm just gonna say one thing. I'm calling bullshit because right. All I'm gonna say, the only thing you need to say is, in schools, right, when you're when you're talking about geography, they don't get out of this cupboard, this fucking flat, diagram of the globe. They'll bring out a globe, they'll spin it. You can't spin around a flat globe, right? You don't get taught in school, well, the world might be flat. Like, they don't teach you that. So these people, they're just bored. They thought, do you know what? Should not be a laugh? I'm gonna start a rumour. The world's flat.
Do you know there's actually a flat Earth society?
Yeah.
Did you know
they're
that?
Disgrace. I do know that. They're disgrace. Like, I don't. What are they looking to get out of it? Because they're never going to prove that the Earth is flat. Like,
it is crazy though, isn't it? Like, so many theories, like, for example, Tupac's still alive, or even, it's funny because obviously a lot of people love Tupac, and then it goes to the extreme of, Adolf Hitler's definitely still alive. He moved to South America, and people saw him, and he had children, and it's like,
do you know what? With the Hitler one, there's apparently, when he died, we'll say. I mean, I think he is dead, but when he died, apparently his body was never immediately found. So there was, whatever happened, he escaped.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine at that time period when the Russians were coming into Germany and they were after Hitler's head? Could you really imagine that they would, like, even lie about not finding Hitler's body? I don't think they would. I think that's all they wanted. They wanted his head. Like,
I don't know. I think someone like that, like, regardless of people who think the Holocaust didn't happen when it absolutely did, I think that it'd be very, very, very difficult for someone like Hitler to have faked his death and to still be alive. It's impossible.
I do think it's, as you say though, it's what people sort of want to hear. So, like, I'm saying like certain groups of people want to believe that. Oh yeah, Hitler's alive. Oh, Tupac's definitely alive, even though he got shot and he died in the hospital. Oh, and Elvis is still alive, even though he died on the toilet. It's just like, we could go on all day. So,
well, again, with the Elvis one, sorry, before you mention that, apparently Elvis is now the groundskeeper of Elvis's house. Like, it's just bollocks.
Yeah.
Why? Like, if you're gonna fake your own death, why then go back to where you used to live? It just doesn't make sense. So can't deal with it.
So to evaluate, if you ever hear a conspiracy theory, just remember this podcast. It's probably bollocks. It's probably bollocks. It's probably bollocks, and that's the truth.
And on that note,
I've been Ginger Jack. Be lucky.
And
Sexy Samuel.
Sexy Samuel, who believes the Holocaust did happen, and I'll see you when you're older.